Rabbit Hole Roundup, episode 40. Money down the drain? Is the US economy collapsing? Do we maybe need a new economy?
It showed profit, but actually there was debt. What the hell?
In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about that. I'm also going to be talking about Freddie Freeman's son actually being diagnosed with something very similar to what I was told was actually the closest to my case when it came to my whole life-threatening illness situation. So I'll be diving into my thoughts on that, as well as the possible causes of that, and of course sending out my love to him and his family. I'm also going to be talking about comment sections, whether on YouTube, whether on TikTok, whether on Instagram, being a case of nonlinear warfare. We're also going to be getting into magic tricks and how they can be used for good or bad, but like how to expose them, as well as a fun topic that I'm going to cover, which is what's actually real and what's not in the movie White Man Can't Jump, which is actually one of my all-time favorite movies.
What you don't realize is that it ain't easy. It is hard goddamn work making something this pretty look like a chump or a geek.
So without further ado, let's dive into this rabbit hole now.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am Jared Weiss. If you guys didn't know that, it must mean that you're not subscribed to the channel, so you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts in this video. Follow me on every platform, and if you guys haven't done so already, make sure to buy my book, Fight Through It by Jared Weiss. You guys can find all the links to purchase it on my website, which is jaredryanweiss.com. That's JaredRyanWeiss.com. It's a very powerful, very motivational book. I've already been getting tons of great feedback, so I'd appreciate it if you guys would be able to support me, support what I'm doing, and support the message. Let's get it. So to start things off, this past week, the Dow actually lost 1,000 points in one day, I believe. So could this spell trouble for the US economy? Well, let's see. And keep in mind, I'm not a doom and gloomy guy. As many of you know, I'm actually an eternal optimist. But that's also when it comes to things like I can control and things that are going on in my own life and in my own world, and using the power of my own free will to create more happiness, more fulfillment, and more success in my life and the lives of those around me. But of course, I can't control everything that's going on in the world.
How do I do it? By rolling with the punches, baby!
And as I'm always saying, we have to be aware and ready for anything that they might be doing, because doing that is going to empower us over the situation. So, our current economy is backed by nothing, essentially.
Nothing.
Huh?
You heard me. Nothing.
From a physical standpoint, but also largely from a moral standpoint as well. Let me explain. So as Sam Tripoli has been talking about recently, the quote-unquote experts will often say that if they had a cure for cancer, which, as many of you know, I believe it's possible to heal from anything, and cancer is actually just its own healing response by the body to set aside toxins it can't currently deal with. But that's also a topic for another day, and one I probably can't cover on here. But as the experts are often saying, if they had a cure for cancer, or if all the wars ended, the economy would collapse. Well then, maybe that's actually not such a great economy to begin with. I mean, if they're profiting off of people dying, off people being sick constantly, and being in this perpetual cycle of war and famine and poverty and pushing pills, pushing surgeries, pushing all the most expensive procedures, which actually in a lot of cases, such as when it comes to chemo, are actually poisoning you, but then maybe that's not such a great economy to begin with. As many of us know, the whole Federal Reserve was actually created so that this way they could print unlimited funny money, basically, or fake money, without it actually being backed by anything, such as gold and silver, which is how it was prior to that, before JP Morgan and all of his cronies and the Rothschilds and all them eliminated the opposition to that.
How about that Titanic song? Oh, no.
Look into the whole truth behind the Titanic story. But eventually, money that isn't backed by anything is going to lose its value one way or another. So, this leads me into, what if we actually had an economy that was built on a positive foundation, and one that was about helping people, providing value, supporting people who were doing good work and who were doing things ethically and morally sound, rather than extorting people and creating a whole population of tax slaves? Oh, well, that wouldn't be beneficial to the people in power, of course. So they're not going to be the ones to do it. And to be clear, I'm no economic expert.
I'm just checking your math on that.
So I can't tell you how to make that possible and how to get that done and how to overhaul a whole economy and create a better one that's actually morally sound and actually has positive foundations. But what I do know is that money that isn't backed by positive values, it does end up becoming the root of all evil. It's not in the money itself though, it's actually the intentions and purposes behind that money. So those are my thoughts when it comes to it's the whole economic situation. I can't speak enough from a economic expert standpoint, but what I do know is that we need to be prepared and also as like self-sufficient as we could possibly be, even though like of course it is very hard, but we're going to keep an eye on that situation. Next story I wanted to get into. Freddie Freeman's son, who I believe is like only 3 years old, was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is actually what I was told was like the closest diagnosis that anyone could get when it came to my whole situation and my whole life-threatening illness situation that I've been healing from for the past several years now. I was never given any official diagnosis, but like one neurologist actually said that like Guillain-Barré syndrome was the closest thing that I had like based on all my symptoms. And I believe very strongly now, after having done years of research and having started my whole holistic healing journey for the past few years, I believe that like I, along with my naturopathic practitioners who are fantastic and who are like very well studied on these subjects, I believe that like certain vaccines and jibby jabbers were largely the cause of it. Were largely the catalyst behind starting my whole illness situation. And you guys can of course read more about the whole explanation in my book if I through it once again, but especially considering how just before going to college, which 3 weeks into my first semester is when all my major health challenges started, seemingly out of nowhere. But like just 1 week prior to going to college, I actually had to receive a certain schmazine, if you know what I mean.
That makes sense to me.
HPV, which has been largely associated with Guillain-Barré syndrome. There have been like a lot of stories of that. And even in the Yahoo article that like I read, and the one like I'm going to pull up in a second, they even mention how schmazines have been largely associated with GBS or Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Coincidence? I think not!
So let's read what the article says. Freddie Freeman's toddler, Max Freeman, is back home after spending 8 days in the pediatric intensive care unit battling Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare life-threatening form of paralysis. So keep in mind, when I was in the hospital, I was actually having involuntary movements, my speech was affected. Also, as I've spoken about numerous times, I also had to relearn how to walk and talk completely. I had to relearn how to do like basically everything. So it says here, Max still has a long road ahead of him to regain his strength and relearn how to walk, but we are so thankful to have our family back together. Freddie, first baseman for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and his wife Chelsea posted on Instagram Sunday. Max developed a limp on July 22nd, and by the end of the day, he was unable to walk, Freddie told the Los Angeles Times. Several doctors believed Max had transient synovitis, a more common condition involving inflammation that can affect the hip and ability to walk following a viral infection. The Freemans were told to give him Tylenol and sent home, but within 2 days, Max could no longer sit up and had stopped eating and drinking. On July 26th, Chelsea took Max to a pediatrician who told her she needed to take her son to the hospital immediately. The paralysis had progressed to Max's diaphragm, and they didn't think he was going to be able to breathe that long. I also had like breathing issues in my whole situation too, which is why I was placed on a ventilator and a feeding tube. The 3-year-old spent several days on a ventilator to support his lung function. The hardest part for Freddie was my 3-year-old son needing help to breathe when 5 days earlier he was doing front flips, the veteran Dodger told the LA Times. A few days later, he had the breathing tube removed. It says here, Guillain-Barré is rare, especially among children, but it can afflict anyone. The good news is that in most cases, including Max, people recover. Then I'm going to fast forward a little bit towards the end, where it gets into what causes GBS. And the end of this article talks about how vaccines, there's some debate about whether the immune response that vaccines are designed to prompt can trigger GBS. According to the CDC, people are more likely to develop GBS after having influenza than after the vaccine against it. Of course they're going to say that, because of course all vaccines are all safe and effective, as we all know, right? So like everything I said before about them is all satire, of course. I was just joking. Suggesting that a flu shot can reduce risks of both getting an infection and GBS. Really, is that so? Well then, how come there's so many stories where that actually wasn't the case?
It just don't add up!
Sarwal, an expert in Guillain-Barré, calls the suggested link between the syndrome and vaccines an urban myth, while Desai says that anything that can trigger the immune system can trigger this abnormal response, but it's exceedingly rare. Exceedingly rare doesn't mean anything to me anymore, especially after everything like I've gone through and everything like I'm still going through as part of my healing journey. But anyways, my heart goes out to him and his family, and if this somehow finds you, I hope that you can look into holistic health and natural healing practices for your son, because even though I'm still not like 100% better yet, I've made so much progress and I'm living my best life Contrast that with being in a hospital bed for 6 weeks, 4 different hospitals, on a ventilator and a feeding tube, placed into a medically induced coma, unable to walk and talk. And now you guys see me lifting all these heavy weights, doing all my athletic feats, putting out podcasts daily. So any type of healing is possible. Like, it does take time, and like, it does take a lot of research and a lot of patience, of course. But if you do this, you can help your son detox from the poisons and toxins that he's been exposed to. And once again, to reiterate, remember that any and all healing is possible, just like takes time and effort, but it can be done. As I'm living proof, because I'm doing things like many doctors told me I would never be able to do once again. The next topic I want to dive into is comment sections have become nonlinear warfare. I fully believe this now. So now, the definition of nonlinear warfare, for those of you who don't know, nonlinear warfare is a strategy that uses unconventional operations to disrupt traditional battlefields and make it difficult to distinguish between combatants and civilians or between war and peace. The goal is to create a complex situation that exploits an opponent's weaknesses rather than focusing on force-on-force conflict. These tools can include cyber attacks, disinformation, propaganda, deniable influence, special operations assets, and psychological operations, or PSYOPs as many of us know. It essentially means like warfare without the actual fighting, creating a whole divide and conquer agenda.
Patrick, you're my best friend in the whole neighborhood.
Patrick, you are the dumbest idiot it has ever been my misfortune to know.
So first off, there's bot forms, of course, as many of us know, which can very easily make it seem like people are way more popular than like they are in reality, which is exactly what seems to be going on with the whole Kamala Harris situation. I mean, how is it like that she goes from being the most unpopular presidential candidate, the most unpopular vice president, to like suddenly she has all these supporters and all these people singing her praises? Does that make sense? Do any of us really believe that? Or have all these comment sections and bot forums and celebrities convinced us that? And this also like very similar to what I believe happened when it came to masking during the whole Koof vid, if you know what I mean. And the masking, because you had people going along with things that like they didn't actually believe in, but like they were all just like being pressured to do so. And a lot of that started with social media comments, because it made people feel like they were alone if they didn't think that like wearing this mask was saving them from some imaginary thing. And a lot of people fall into social pressures.
You don't want to wear an AIDS ribbon?
No.
But you have to wear an AIDS ribbon.
I have to?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't want to. You are? You're a ribbon bully.
Because the whole thing is, if you're on one end of the extreme or the other, you're going to be the most vulnerable to being taken out. On the other hand, if you just like fit in with the crowd and you go along to get along, a lot of people see that as being the safest path to not getting hurt. Then also recently, I heard someone saying how, based on what you believe in, you may actually be shown different comments than someone else.
Get out!
Especially at the top of the comments feed. Now, why is this a problem? Because this feeds the whole divide and conquer agenda. One side thinks like everyone's agreeing with them, the other side thinks everyone's agreeing with them. Both sides are at each other's throats, both sides hate each other.
Why don't you go to hell? No, you go to hell.
Once again, this is a perfect case of nonlinear warfare. I mean, as Sam Tripoli often says, your algorithm is lying to you. But this also leads me into, we can't be feeding into this agenda. We need to get back to vibrating at the frequency of love, not hating our neighbor, not always seeing someone who believes differently as the other, because ultimately it's the people at the top who are pulling all the strings. They want us to be at each other's throats. They want us to be calling everyone morons. But can we remember that even with all of our differences, can we still respect and be kind to one another and not impose our beliefs onto others who believe differently? That's what true freedom is actually about. And that's what's going to create the ultimate changes in our realm. Having compassion for one another and not forcing others to believe the exact same things that you do. And if you do want them to actually change their beliefs, model that change. Show them how doing that is going to be the better way. But feeding into the whole divide and conquer agenda? No bueno. Next up, we're going to be talking about magic. So, the only way to stop a magic trick is to be aware of what's going on. So like, the elites, quote unquote, people in power, ruling class, old guard, whatever you want to call them, lizard people, any of those names works for me, are totally aware of magic and its powers and employ it with words, with laws, with all of their agendas and whatnot. And they also use it in movies, songs. But the other day I was having a powerful conversation with one of my friends who's also part of the whole truth-seeking community. And we agreed that like 90% of the battle, when it comes to all the satanic stuff, all the rituals, all the dark occult magic that's being used on us, is to be aware of it and to change your intentions. So whether this be songs, sporting events, or TV shows, this is why I'm always saying that like we could take back power over these things by allowing yourselves to still enjoy all these cultural things. It's possible to be in the world without being of the world. And this made me think of a very powerful analogy, which is a magic trick only works if the people don't know what's coming.
We're experts in the ancient craft of close-up magic. It's all about misdirection.
Now, of course, a lot of the people who are in power, quote unquote, once again, and those trying to run our culture and trying to run our lives, even though I don't believe it works, if you take back the power and you take control of your life and take personal responsibility. But of course, they're trying their best to make it harder on us. But these people are always going to be employing dark magic. They're going to be casting spells through words, through symbolism, through song lyrics. But on the other hand, if we're actually aware that the trick is coming and empower ourselves with that knowledge, then the trick loses its power to control us and loses its power over us. So of course, the magic trick is still being done, but we just don't fall for it. Which is why, once again, I believe it's totally possible to still see great movies and still enjoy them, even if they're coming from Hollywood. It's still possible to listen to rap songs and get hyped and have fun with that. Because once you have like an awareness over the agenda, and as long as you're someone who's spiritually grounded enough not to fall for the agenda, then it loses its power over you. Which is why it's so important to bring awareness to everything that's going on, but like to not fall into the fear vibration and to not fall into the darkness and not succumb to it. So now for the final topic of this video, which I think is a very interesting and very fun one, talking about movies actually, is what's true and what was actually real when it came to the movie White Men Can't Jump, which is an all-time classic. If you guys haven't seen it, you definitely should. It's hilarious, it's entertaining, great movie. Came out in '93, I believe, with Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes.
One more point, man. We win this.
I understand.
$500 point game, all right?
Go teach class to play
Yo,
basketball.
I've been teaching class on you all day. Taking you right to the clinic, baby. Come on. Matter of fact, class is in session again.
So, let's read the article together. During the filming of White Men Can't Jump, 1992 actually, it became clear that Woody Harrelson was significantly better at basketball than Wesley Snipes, although according to their basketball instructors, both actors reached the skill level to be able to start for an NCAA Division III team. However, in the movie, they are depicted as equals, though Harrelson's character famously cannot dunk.
One of us definitely not going home tonight.
Hence the name of the movie, White Men Can't Jump. Or as Wesley Snipes says to him at one point, I have 4 words for you, Billy. White men can't jump.
White men can't jump.
While Snipes and Harrelson had passed the basketball test to land the roles of Sidney and Billy, their training was just beginning. We played all day, every day, says Snipes, who studied tiny Archibald tapes to up his game. 6 days a week they were on the court, both learning new moves and becoming familiar with writer/director Ron Shelton's playbook to ensure the basketball scenes didn't look completely choreographed. Once the scripted plays were shot, Shelton kept the cameras rolling and told everyone to play to win, leading to some fierce tape battles. That's very interesting. So like a lot of the basketball scenes in that movie were actually real and like were actually happening. The sense of competition continued off camera as well. In a movie about hustlers, betting and schemes were an everyday occurrence on set, whether it was a shooting contest or Harrelson proving that white men can jump on a 9-foot rim, that is. During filming of the scene in which Billy loses his winnings in an attempt to prove to Sidney that he can dunk, Harrelson had his own score to win, placing a wager with his co-star that he could do what his character couldn't. As Snipes would head back to his trailer between takes, the crew was slightly lowering the rim without his knowledge. Eventually, it was enough for Harrelson to slam it home. They lowered the rim and put stickum on his hands, laughed Snipes. I already had the money spent. I came out of the trailer and came back to set. He went up there and dunked it. Everyone was going crazy, and I went, wait a minute, something is wrong here. So I dunked it and immediately was like, come on, you guys lower the rim. While Harrelson's dunk needed some assistance, the stars' trash-talking skills were pickup game ready. We were rehearsing and everybody is complaining that everyone else has the best yo mama jokes, recalls Shelton. I said, shut up, come back with your best ones tomorrow. Guys had computer printouts with yo mama jokes. We were just roaring at all the jokes. The problem was most of them were rated NC-17 when I was in R and already had 170 mother effers in there. Happy birthday, Wesley Snipes. I hope that you guys found that funny and enjoyable. And being someone who is very passionate about vertical jump, basketball, and dunking, that movie has always been like one of my all-time favorites. I'm curious also, what would you say your top 5 basketball movies of all time are? That one is definitely up there for me. And I've also always been someone who's trying to prove the phrase wrong, white men can't jump, no matter how many times people have doubted me. And even though it took me over 10 years, being only 5'6", since starting my dunk journey to actually touch the rim, and I'm still working on getting that first dunk, but I proved a lot of people wrong with that. So, white men can jump.
Things you didn't know about White Men Can't Jump.
Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys found it interesting, uplifting, inspiring, truth-seeking, knowledgeable, and I hope that I give you guys some wisdom and some things to look into today. So anyways, if you guys haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts on this video. Follow me on every platform, buy the book if you haven't done so already. I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay critical thinking, stay hustling, stay asking questions, stay positive, don't fall into the black pill trap. We got this. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.